The Rangers can't stop winning. Alex Speas is going to be a big leaguer. And would the Rangers trade for Shohei Ohtani? We're talking about all that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 5 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. The best way you can help grow the show is to comment and subscribe, comment nearly any single thing below. Today is Wednesday, July 19th. Your Rangers are 57-39, alone atop the AL West in first place with a 4.5 game lead over the Houston Astros. Before we get into today's show, this episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks. You could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Try out Sleeper today. The Rangers have won the series against the Rays, a crucial series for them to win, and the Rangers could end up sweeping this Rays team, which had the best record and still has the best record in the American League at this point. They are still at first place in the AL East, but the Rangers are helping those Baltimore Orioles stay in the hunt for that AL East crown, and the Rangers are making a run for that number 1 seed in the AL overall. Getting the top seed would be fantastic for the Rangers and a clear sign that this is the best team, one of the best teams in all of baseball. I mean, they've been proving it year in and year out. I mean, for the last few months, they have been proving it. But in this kind of game against a very, very tough pitcher yet again, and with their ace on the hill, Nathan Eovaldi looked like himself once again. He had an 8-pitch first inning where he struck out a Ray, or maybe it was a pair of Rays, but he looked very much like himself from the freaking get-go, which was absolutely huge for the Rangers. 6 shutout innings for him, 3 walks, just 2 strikeouts for him, but only 2 hits allowed. His ERA for the season is down to 2.69, and he just did it. He just absolutely went out there and got after these Rays hitters. He only needed 93 pitches to get through those 6 innings, leaving 3 innings for the bullpen, which at the time I believe he still had the lead when he came out of this game. Yes, the Rangers when he came out of the game, it was still there we go. He had a 2-run lead. There we go. Sorry, got all my innings mixed up. But no, he came out of the game with a 2-run lead. Jose Leclerc comes in, and just not a great outing for Jose Leclerc, who had been having a couple of pretty good outings in a row, including in the game before where he had a perfect inning with 1 strikeout. Looked very, very good in that series opener against the Rays, but I guess on back-to-back days, not so much for Leclerc. Grant Anderson comes in and gets a really, really huge double play to get the Rangers out of that 7th inning, then gives up a pair of home runs in the 8th inning, makes it a closer game at that point, but good old Corey Seager came in with a 3-run bomb in the bottom of the 7th inning after striking out 3 times against Taj Bradley. Bradley looked very, very good in this one. He only gave up a pair of runs, struck out 9, including Corey Seager 3 times, and I believe all 3 of Nathaniel Lowe's strikeouts were also at the hands of Taj Bradley. He is a top prospect for a reason. He does have an ERA over 5. He's been pretty inconsistent, but when he is on, he is very, very good, and you can see why the Rays like him so much and why prospect evaluators in general like him so much. This was just a fun game. Again, a big game for Randy Arozarena, who had a double and a home run. Nearly got gunned down at second base by his bestie, Adolis Garcia, in right field, but wasn't quite quick enough on the throw, and Randy Arozarena wags his little finger at his bestie in right field while laying on the ground at second base. A delightful moment for him. And another big Lau day. Brandon Lau home run for him in this one. Josh Lowe did not homer in this one like he did the night before, did still work a walk and scored a run and got a hit while playing center field, but a big day for the Rangers, top of their order. 3-hit day for Marcus Semien, including a home run to get the Rangers on the board, give them the lead, and just kept on getting on base, was on base for Corey Seager's 3-run blast in the bottom of the 7th inning to extend the Rangers lead to 5-2 at that point. And they did not look back, 5-1 at that point, and they did not look back. So those couple of home runs from Grant Anderson it didn't end up being that big of a deal. And speaking of the pen, we're going to get into the Rangers bullpen help that they are getting in the form of Alex Speas in the third segment of this show. But Corey Seager is never going to be kept down for long. He kind of looked off in those first 3 at bats. I mean, he was just not quite timing things up just right. And then he got a pitch he can handle, a fastball on the inner corner, about middle end, and he just deposited it into the center field. I guess not bleachers, but just over the fence in center field for his 14th home run of the season. Good to see him getting back into that home run swing. Good to see Marcus Semien getting back into his home run swing. Again, a big day for him, getting his OPS up to 800 on the season. The Rangers had two starters that have the OPS dip below 800. Now Leo Taveras is struggling a little bit as of right now. His OPS is all the way down to 789. So truly terrible. And Nathaniel Lowe, after a pretty good game in the first outing of this series, and has looked much better and did still have a hit and was able to score a run later on in this game, has an OPS of 798. So those are the bad hitters in the Rangers lineup, which again, one is hitting ninth and playing Gold Glove center field defense. Leo Taveras had a big play with a runner on first base, I believe it was in the 4th inning, where he just made an incredible route on this ball into the deep left center field gap, and he just made it look so incredibly easy. That's the kind of ease with which he makes pretty much every play look easy. He is so fast, he gets such good reads, and having good center field defense, it's really subtle. It's not always something that hits you over the head by any means, but still, when you see it in action, I mean, the Rangers haven't really had that before. In the couple of years before Leo Taveras, they had Joey Gallo playing center field defense in 2019, which was hilarious because he's 6'5" and came up as a third baseman. And ironically, Grant Schiller and I were both like, yeah, Joey Gallo, put him in center field. But then he actually did a pretty decent job. But for the most part, the Rangers haven't had elite center field defense since the days of Leonys Martin. And having Leo Taveras out there patrolling center field, along with Adolis Garcia in right field, and then whoever's out there in left, which today it was Travis Jankowski, who also had a multi-hit day, a double that scored the second run for the Rangers' 9th double of the season. Again, coming off the Rays bullpen, the Rangers scoring 3 runs off Rays relievers today. All of them came on that solo shot by Corey Seager. But still, actually, I believe one of those runs did score off of Taj Bradley. He was pitching, but he was not pitching. It was his inherited runner scored against Robert Stevenson. That was the one hit that Stevenson gave up. Of course, it was a double to Jankowski because that's what Jankowski does. He comes up in big situations with 2 outs and was able to score that run, give the Rangers an extra run of support, a 2-0 lead at that point, and then the Rangers never ended up surrendering the run. Thankfully, ended up surrendering the lead because of that 2-out double, I should say, in the bottom of the 6th inning. But this Rangers offense is just continuing to match, continuing to be incredibly deep, and continuing to look like the best offense in the American League, if not all baseball. Probably not all baseball because the Braves are absolutely insane. But still, this offense is incredibly good, and taking 2 out of 3 against the Rays, and they have a bullpen day game today, which has been the Rangers' Achilles heel. But they've been so hot, they've won 5 straight games to come out of the All-Star break with a 4.5 game lead over the Astros. Maybe they'll just go ahead and take the sweep and head into this weekend series feeling very, very good about themselves after sweeping the team that was considered by far the best in all baseball for the first 3 months of the season. Coming up, we're going to look at a potential Shohei Ohtani trade, why the Rangers might actually do it, and some rumors that are actually linking them to make this trade, plus the most fun, most exciting call-up the Rangers have had so far this season. But first, this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Dave. At one time or another, we all need a little financial help, and that's why Dave is so great. Dave can get you cash when you need a hand in between paychecks and can help you build credit by settling extra cash advances on time. Dave is the banking app that's leveling the financial playing field. When you download Dave, you could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. It's part of Dave's extra cash account advance, the money you need with no interest and then settle up later. Extra cash gives you the money to buy groceries, fill your tank, finally get that car repaid and catch up on bills without having to wait for your next paycheck. You can even build credit when you settle up on time. Millions of people have already downloaded Dave to make their finances easier. So if you're in a pinch, get the help you need by downloading Dave. Download Dave today at dave.com/MLB. That's dave.com/MLB. You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. Download the Dave app now or go to dave.com/LockedOnMLB. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Eligibility criteria and instant transfer fees apply. Banking services provided by Evolve. Member FDIC. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be crossing over with Locked On Rays to break down this crucial series against Tampa Bay. The Rangers take on the Rays this week and catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, some news came out yesterday from Josh Bertaccini, who had ESPN insider Buster Olney on with his show with him. And this is a tweet from him at 6:55 a.m. yesterday, which I didn't see till much later because I'm not getting up at 6:55. Anyway, the tweet says, Buster Olney with us now. Quote, look for the Rangers to be as aggressive as anyone in trying to trade for Ohtani at the deadline. End quote. Now, this set up some flags, definitely some ear perking up, some hair raising on the back of my neck, and a little bit of shiver in me timbers because, wow, you think the Rangers are going to be aggressive in trading for Shohei Ohtani, as aggressive as anybody, and that's Buster Olney, who has been an insider for a very, very long time, a very, very credible guy around baseball, and I just found that very, very interesting that the Rangers are going to be as aggressive as anybody. I mean, we don't really know what the trade deadline will look like this year. We especially don't know what a trade deadline run by Chris Young would look like. And this is a team that's window is right now. I mean, it feels kind of like it's maybe next year because Jacob deGrom isn't here, but no one knows what Jacob deGrom is going to look like when he comes back, when he will actually come back. And the Rangers have a really freaking good team this year. And if they make a trade for Shohei Ohtani right now, they have got to be one of, if not the favorites, even over the Braves, to win the World Series. I mean, it would be absolutely incredible. And of course, ESPN happened to have an article with a bunch of potential hypothetical trades for Shohei Ohtani. And the package they sent from the Rangers, which they included in the Now We're Talking section. There are 3 different categories of potential trades. There's actually 4, I should say. There is, where we go? Where we start? Sorry, you must have the wrong number, which the Rays trade and Yankees and Mets were like, no, that's not happening. Call us back when you're serious, which is Baltimore Orioles deal, which included none of their really top guys, which I don't think the Orioles would do, but they have such a deep system that the trade package that ESPN proposed was not very serious. The Giants were in there as well, as were the Mariners. In the next closest tier of the Now We're Talking, the Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks were in there. The Diamondbacks deal was a proposed deal of shortstop Jordan Lawler, who is a former Dallas Jesuit standout, who I thought the Rangers should have drafted instead of Jack Leiter, but that's neither here nor there. They also had left-handed pitcher Yoon-Min Lin, right-handed pitcher Slade Cecchini, Cecchini. I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce this, and outfielder Alec Thomas, who is at the big league level. For the Rangers, this honestly I think might be the best package in here. I know that they really, really like the Dodgers package, which included outfielder Justin DePaula, right-handed pitcher Nick Nastrini, right-handed pitcher Ryan Pepio, catcher Dalton Rushing, right-handed pitcher Emmett Sheehan, and right-handed pitcher Gavin Stone. Those are a lot of very, very good pitching prospects that could be at the big league level, or in Ryan Pepio already has been at the big league level, that could help the Angels win while deciding to keep Mike Trout or potentially luring Shohei Ohtani back. But the Rangers deal was, I still think, the best value. The proposed deal by ESPN was right-hand pitcher Brock Porter, right-hand pitcher Jack Leiter, utility player Ezequiel Duran, second baseman Justin Foscue, and outfielder Yeison Morrobel. Now, that is a huge, huge deal, and off the bat, they said it's not guaranteed that this would get done, that this would be enough to get the deal done. And in my head, I think, how in the heck is it not enough to get the deal done for 2 months of Ohtani? And the only way you do this, the whole reason behind any Ohtani trade, which, flags fly forever, and prospect pearl clutching is a dangerous game to get into. And as someone who does love prospects and can occasionally get caught up in prospect pearl clutching, even people who are very much flags fly forever go trade those prospects while they've got their value and go get the guy. And Shohei is as much the guy as anybody in Major League Baseball, as anybody in the history of Major League Baseball. And you are also trading for 2 players because, again, he's one of the best hitters in the world at DH. And oh, yeah, he also pitches. So you would probably end up changing your starting rotation, or you might just go with a 6-man rotation, which I think is about what the Rangers would do if they traded for Ohtani, because Ohtani has, I don't think, ever pitched on 4 days rest. He is a guy who requires a lot more, time and being careful with him and, not making him start more often than he needs to. And with this rotation being filled of mostly guys who kind of need that, don't have a big innings workload that I feel comfortable with them doing, including even Nathan Eovaldi, who I believe is at least still in the top 5, if not number 1 in the AL in innings pitched. I think that adding a 6th arm to the rotation, so I wouldn't knock anybody out. I wouldn't knock Dane Nutting out of the rotation, especially not after what he's been doing. I still wouldn't knock Martin Perez out of the rotation, or Andrew Heaney, or John Gray, obviously, because Gray's been fine. But I think that is a lot. But looking at this deal, Porter and Leiter, this is about as low as a value as Leiter has ever had. He has been placed on the prospect, not the inactive list. I forgot what the actual the development list is what it's called, because Jack Leiter is having these same problems that he's been having since he started in Double A and missing glove side with that fastball. The stuff is still really nasty. I'm still a believer that he could be a big league starting pitcher, but with each one of those starts where he would continue to walk guys and occasionally get lit up, I mean, the confidence is definitely waning. And Brock Porter has a lot of potential, and he is very, very far away, and he is walking the entire world and striking out the entire world in low A because his changeup is just not fair. But he is still going to be 20 years old fairly soon if he hasn't already turned 20. He was just drafted last year, and there's still a lot of developmental meat on the bone. There's a long way to go. He is a high school pitching prospect, and those guys are very, very risky, even though his ceiling is very high. Ezequiel Duran, that's the part that makes me say, I don't know about that on this deal. I think at this point, I would be more likely to include Evan Carter in that deal than Ezequiel Duran, which if you had asked me that at the beginning of the season, I probably would have slapped myself in the face saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's no way that you would do that. But seeing what Ezequiel Duran has done all year at the big league level, this is probably the best. This is the best guy that is proposed in any of these trades. He already has an 850 plus OPS at the big league level this season, 13 bombs, playing shortstop, playing second, playing third, playing left field, playing a little bit of right field, even playing first base, and he could probably play center field if the Rangers didn't have Leo Taveras and Travis Jankowski on their roster. But I digress. This is the best guy that is proposed in any of these deals, and that is why I would say no on this deal. If you flip Evan Carter with Ezequiel Duran, even though it's only 2 months of Shohei Ohtani, I think I do it. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot, especially if Evan Carter is as good as I think he is, which is very good. If Brock Porter figures it out, if Justin Foscue is going to come up to the big leagues pretty quickly, he would probably already be in the big leagues if he was on the Angels. I mean, he's a guy who has walked more than he's struck out. He hits for a lot of average. He cannot defend worth a lick, but the dude can hit. He can hit, as they say in I Think You Should Leave. But Yeison Morrobel is another one that might hurt a little bit. He is out for the season with a torn labrum. I'm not sure if you can trade for a hurt prospect, but he was having a really nice season. He is 20 years old and in low A, I think 20. Yeah, he was 20 this season, putting up some really good on base numbers, a decent amount of steals, and playing a decent defense in center field. Maybe some projection for some average power there, but a real lotto ticket down low. But a lot of people are very, very high on him, and it's a bummer that he is going to miss the rest of the season. And if Jack Leiter figures it out and hits his ceiling with the Angels, that's going to really, really sting. But seeing Ezequiel Duran there every day right now, and that also puts a hole on the Rangers big league team. We're going to talk about why it even creates more problems than it might solve trading Ezequiel Duran for Shohei Ohtani. And we're going to look at the most fun, most exciting call-up for the Texas Rangers this season. But first, let's word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Want the chance to win more money with less picks? Head to Sleeper, where you can win up to 100 times your money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. Tonight you can go with the Rangers absolutely lighting up a Rays bullpen day, or if you're wanting to wait and see and you wanted to go with, I don't know, the Astros maybe dominating at Coors Field, which they lost yesterday. So maybe you could go there or go somewhere else in the AL West. And speaking of Shohei Ohtani, if you want to bet on Shohei Ohtani hitting a home run or getting a bunch of hits. If you want to win 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball, Sleeper is now offering up to a 100 times payout for up to 8 pick contests. Choose as many as 8 players you like. Pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right and you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day on Friday's show. I'll talk about what went down this week on the farm. The Rangers take on the Rays this week and catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, looking back at that potential deal that ESPN proposed, Brock Porter, Jack Leiter, Ezequiel Duran, Justin Foscue, and Yeison Morrobel. Again, Ezequiel Duran is the biggest red flag of why I wouldn't do this. I talked on yesterday's show about ranking the trade value of the Rangers 25 and under players. Put Josh Young first, and then Leo Taveras, and then Ezequiel Duran. I really don't think the Rangers could trade Leo Taveras. I think the Angels might ask for him. They might also ask for Josh Young, and I think if anyone asked for Josh Young in a trade for anything less than, I don't know, like it would. I can't even think of a player that I'd trade Josh Young for. Not that they don't exist, but like there's just not really a scenario where that's on the table. And definitely not for 2 months of Shohei Ohtani, even though he is the most amazing baseball player we've ever seen. But if the Rangers traded Ezequiel Duran, who is having a very, very great season and an everyday contributor in this lineup, he is the primary DH, so it is technically possible, even though I'd rather him be the everyday left fielder. But I digress. It does create a hole in this team at the present moment and make them a little bit worse at the present moment by trading Ezequiel Duran or trading really anybody on the big league roster. At this point, that would shift Travis Jankowski and some combination of Travis Jankowski and Robbie Grossman to your everyday left fielder. You could no longer DH Jonah Heim, giving him half days with Mitch Garver back there behind the plate. You could also no longer DH Mitch Garver, which is totally fine. If you've got Shohei Ohtani as your DH, it just kind of limits your ability to give guys half days off. There wouldn't be any half days for Corey Seager. Also, you couldn't move Ezequiel Duran to your backup shortstop and give Corey Seager a day off. And the one thing that was the 2 players that were apparently off limits in this deal, according to the ESPN crew that was making it was Evan Carter and Owen White. And I would put Owen White in this deal. If I could switch Owen White for Ezequiel Duran, I think I'd do it. I think I'd do this deal, and it would cost me dearly in emotional capital of how attached I am to Owen White. I really like him, and watching him dominate and giving that guy who is naturally so fired up a reason to be pissed off at you, who's probably going to face you multiple times a year. That is probably not a good combination. Bar fight White, giving him an extra reason to do well against your team. And I think he's going to be a pretty good major league starter. And he could be a very valuable asset in the Rangers' pen this year. But I think if that's the deal that's on the table, I think that's accurate. I think that's about what it would take to get Shohei Ohtani. Maybe the asking price will come down in a few months when everyone's like, actually, I don't know if we need to mortgage the entire farm for 2 months of Shohei Ohtani. Unless you believe that you will have an exclusive negotiating window, which, again, I think might actually be the most important part. My biggest homery kind of feeling about the Rangers is that they have a good chance to sign Shohei Ohtani because of their vibes, because everyone in this clubhouse, from most of the stars, are just very low-key, quiet, not in the spotlight kind of dudes, and I think that's why he also chose Anaheim, because, I mean, that's what Mike Trout is like, and he wanted to go there and learn from Mike Trout. That's kind of what Corey Seager is like. That's what Marcus Semien is like. That's what Josh Young is like. They're all just and Nathan Eovaldi and also Jacob deGrom. Basically, this entire team is just a bunch of guys who are, no offense to them, just kind of boring dudes that don't want to make a bunch of waves, just want to go out there and be really good at baseball. Which, as someone who likes to have a bunch of things to talk about, makes it a little harder, but it's more fun. If they're going to go out there and just be good at baseball, that's totally fine. That's their job as baseball players. And I think he would really, really fit in that vibe, and seeing that atmosphere in that clubhouse and the facilities, and, Chris Young being the ultimate negotiator, convincer that he is. He convinced Bruce Bochy to come out of retirement. He convinced Corey Seager and Marcus Semien to sign here after a 100-loss season and after several seasons of just being in the freaking tank. And he convinced Jacob deGrom to sign here, Nathan Eovaldi. Like, Chris Young's ability as a salesman, I think, is kind of underrated. And if he thinks that having 2 months here, being on the Rangers, seeing what it's like, then at that point, I think I might think about including Ezequiel Duran. But it is a lot of cost, a very, very difficult decision. And I'll probably end up talking more about this as we get closer to the deadline, hoping to do a crossover with Locked On Angels boys to see if they would take that deal or what kind of, cheap deal I could hypothetically get past them to steal their favorite baseball player away and send him to the Rangers, where he would hopefully win a World Series this year. But the Rangers do have some news they announced this morning before the game. Alex Speas, the right-handed pitcher, is coming up. Speas is a former second-round pick by the Rangers and the most heartwarming story in the Rangers minor leagues this year. You don't know his story. He is 25 years old. He retired from baseball in 2020 after the 2021 season because he just could not stop walking, guys. He had 15.8 walks per nine in his last stop of professional ball before the season, and did have 17.3 strikeouts, those 12 innings of Double-A work, and a 11.25 ERA. He was also not much better at limiting the walks in the Arizona Complex League that year. As a 23-year-old, he had 13.5 walks per nine in 3.1 innings in the Arizona Complex League. So 15.1 combined innings and over 15 walks per nine as a 23-year-old in 2021. So he retired. He decided to go be a coach for high school. And his friends and his family and even his daughter convinced him after last year, hey, just give it one more shot. Just call up the Rangers, see if they'll have you back, and see if you've got anything left. And if you don't, then great, come back and go be a high school coach. And if you do, then, maybe you make it to the big leagues. Maybe you achieve your dream. And that is exactly what has happened at this point. Alex Speas came back to Frisco as a 25-year-old who had not pitched in a year, and he was absolutely electric. Absolutely fantastic. In 28 and a third innings, he struck out 47, walked just 13, had a 0.64 ERA. Then he got called up to Round Rock and was also fantastic. Got even better at limiting those walks, just 2 walks in 7 and 2/3 innings. Only allowed a couple of runs. I think both of them came off the same home run. 12 strikeouts in under 8 innings and a 2.35 ERA in AAA. And now he is a big leaguer. The roster move that had to be made to make that happen. John King was optioned to AAA Round Rock. Good. Fine. Absolutely no notes. But the sad news is that Taylor Hearn was designated for assignment. This was probably going to come at some point this season when somebody got called up, but Hearn just did not have it at the big leagues this year. I was a huge Taylor Hearn believer, but it just has not come to fruition in the minor leagues this year. It has been frustrating to see. He has had those walk problems persist very much so in the PCL. 5.5 walks per nine, 12.4 Ks per nine, and a 3.66 ERA in 39 and a third innings. It just has not worked out for Taylor Hearn. I imagine that somebody's going to try and pick him up and fix him up and see if they can get something out of him. He only had 4 games in the big leagues this year, but he had an ERA over 10 and a career ERA in 92 big league games of 5.11. It's a real shame. I was a believer in Taylor Hearn. I do still think he will be a valuable big leaguer for somebody someday, but apparently it is not going to be the Rangers and it's not going to be this year. Best of luck to him in his travels, but I am very, very excited for Alex Speas to get a chance to go out and absolutely shove. He's got a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, a very nasty cutter, which is probably better than his fastball. He's also got a slider that is in the high 80s. The cutter is in the low 90s. That is his nasty pitch, and he has used it to make AAA players look very, very silly this year. He's used it to make AA players look incredibly silly, and I think he's going to make some big leaguers look real silly whenever he finally gets into a game. He is a big righty at 6'3", 225 pounds. He is a guy who I think could pitch in high-leverage situations pretty quickly because he has pitched in a lot of high-leverage situations in weird outings, when starters didn't go very deep, he would pitch sometimes in the 5th or the 4th or the 3rd inning. He had a couple inning outing. His best outing so far was 2 innings against the Dakota Raiders in the 10th and 11th inning. He walked 1, didn't allow a single hit in 2 innings pitched, and struck out 4, and the Round Rock Express got the win in that game because he was so freaking good in that clutch outing. I'm excited to see him in a big league uniform, fulfilling his dreams. He is still a little wild, and the Rays could definitely, take advantage of that wildness if he gets in the game in this game or just other big leaguers in general. But I am so excited for this kid, so freaking happy for him achieving his big league games, no matter big league dreams, and no matter what happens, no one can take away that Alex Speas is a freaking big leaguer now. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy first place Texas Rangers baseball.